The elevator doors peeled apart on a floor that wasn't on the panel, and the air that rolled out hit me like somebody had just cracked open a fridge full of bleach and dead skin. I stood there with my tool bag biting into my shoulder, thumbs still mashed on the door close button out of habit, staring at the little digital display above the doors blinking a calm, stupid 0, like it belonged there. Hospitals don't have floor 0. Not like that. They've got basements, sub-basements, B1, B2, sometimes mech, sometimes some half-assed LL sign the architect insisted on. But 0 is office building bullshit. 0 is a condo trying to feel European. 0 is not a county hospital that can't keep the hand sanitizer dispensers filled. I fix elevators. That's my entire personality, basically. Union card, night call-outs, bad back, hands that smell like oil even after you scrub until your knuckles bleed. I don't do ghosts. I do relays, switches, door shoes, rollers, interlocks. I do people slamming carts into closing doors and then acting like the elevator attacked them. It was making a weird noise, and it stopped for a second, and my heart did too. That night, I got the call at 12:47 a.m. from hospital security. Not some cheerful dispatcher, not some receptionist with a script, actual security desk. The guy's voice had that tired, mean edge people get when they're scared and try to pretend they're not. East Tower service car, he said. Midevling. Stopping where it shouldn't. Nurse almost got trapped. Admin on call was losing their goddamn mind. If I didn't get there now, they were shutting down the whole bank and pushing ICU beds on stairs like it was 1912. So I drove in. The hospital at night always feels like you're trespassing in a place you're allowed to be. The main lobby lights are dim. The vending machines hum too loud. The air smells like cleaning product and stale coffee, and something underneath you don't want to name. You hear shoes squeak down a hallway, and you don't see the person until they're too close. Security didn't let me wander. They badged me through 3 locked doors like they couldn't wait to get me inside the problem, like I was a wrench they could throw at whatever was happening. The guy who called, Mason, his badge said, walked fast and didn't make eye contact. He didn't do small talk. He didn't even do the fake "thanks for coming out" thing. He just kept glancing at the ceiling corners and the elevator indicator panels like he expected them to blink at him. He took me to the service bank in the East Tower, service corridor, not public, stained tile, carts parked crooked, a mop bucket that smelled like it had been used to mop up more than water. The service car was the one with the battered stainless doors and the NO public use sign that nobody reads. Mason stopped with his finger hovering over the call button like touching plastic too long might contaminate him. Then he handed me a folded piece of paper. "Read it," he said. I almost laughed. It wasn't funny, but it was absurd. I'm standing there in a hospital at 1 a.m. with my tools, and this guy's handing me a note like I'm about to go on a scavenger hunt. "What is this?" I started. "Read it," he said again, and his voice cracked on the last word. He swallowed and tried to recover, lower, tougher. "Just read it." It was a page torn out of a spiral notebook. Thick black marker, all caps like somebody didn't trust cursive to survive. The paper had a crease down the middle from being folded and unfolded too many times. The edges were greasy, like it had been handled in a hurry with sweaty hands. East Tower service car rules. 1. Do not ride it alone. If you can't get a second person, put a loaded linen cart inside first. Something with weight. Something with a job. 2. If the display shows 0, do not let the doors fully open. Hit door close and hold it until the car moves. If they open anyway, don't step out. 3. Do not answer if you hear knocking from inside the shaft. The elevator knocks back. You don't. For if you smell bleach and meat at the same time, breathe through cloth. Do not breathe it bare. 5. If you find a gurney inside with no patient but fresh straps, back out and take the stairs. Don't check. Don't help. 6. If a voice uses your name over the intercom, pull the alarm and cut power at the disconnect. It only knows your name if you gave it time. There's a smear at the bottom, like someone had wiped a thumb across wet ink. Under it, in smaller writing, like a last-minute confession. If you already saw 0, It saw you back. Don't be brave. Be fast. I looked up at Mason. He was staring at the elevator doors like they might breathe. Who wrote this? I asked. He shrugged too fast. It's been around. That's not an answer. He exhaled through his nose, angry and miserable. Nurse supervisor wrote it. Or someone did. I don't know. It was taped to the inside of the security drawer last month. We keep it with the keys. I should have told him to go screw himself. I should have done the professional thing and said, listen, I'm here for equipment issues, not whatever creepy campfire crap you guys pass around to scare new hires. I should have walked out and let their admin scream into the void. But I've got a mortgage. I've got a kid. I've got a union steward who treats contract obligations like scripture and loves reminding you that refusing a call out gets you a reputation fast. So I nodded like this was totally normal and stepped up to the car. First thing I did was break rule 1 without thinking. Because my whole job is stepping into an elevator alone. You step in, you listen, you feel the vibration through your boots, you smell for burnt contacts, you watch how the doors behave, you check the panel. That's literally the first thing you do. It's muscle memory. I stepped inside. The door slid shut behind me with a soft, clean whoosh. Mason didn't follow. He let the doors close on me like he was sealing a lid. That should have been the moment I backed out. Not because I believed in the rules, because he believed in them, and that should have told me something. If a grown man with a radio and a badge won't step into a box with you, maybe the box is a problem. The door open button didn't respond right away when I hit it out of irritation. Half-second delay, maybe a full second, long enough for my brain to register the delay and go, hey, that's not right. Then the doors crept open slowly like they were tired. Outside was just the service corridor. Same ugly tile, same carts, a poster about lift with your legs peeling at the corners. A nurse pushing a crash cart by the far intersection without looking my way. Normal. I exhaled and told myself to calm the hell down. Late night nerves. Everyone spooked because the building is quiet. People make up stories. Whatever. Then the doors closed again by themselves. Not a normal door close after a timer. Not a polite ding-ding and then shutting. Just deciding. Sliding shut while my hand was still on the rail. The car moved without me touching anything. It went down. I felt it through my knees first, that drop start. The suspension doing its thing. The whine of the motor. Everything normal, except it was happening without permission. I slapped the stop button. Service cars don't have a real stop button like the old days, but they've got an emergency stop switch behind a little plastic cover. I flipped it down. Nothing. The floor indicator ticked. 2. 1. Then it hesitated like it was thinking, like it had to decide what came next. Then it dropped. 0. My mouth went dry instantly. Not a little dry. Desert dry. Like my tongue forgot what saliva was. Rule 2 screamed in my skull like a siren. I slammed my thumb on door close and held it so hard the joint hurt. The door still opened. Not all the way at first. Just enough for a thin slice of whatever was out there to leak in. The smell hit me like a hand over the face. Bleach, sharp, clean, hospital clean. And under it, warm rot, like meat left out in a locked car. Like a butcher shop dumpster on a humid day. It wasn't a smell you could get used to. It went straight through the back of your nose and into your brain. Rule 4, breathe through cloth. I yanked my sleeve up like a kid in a fire drill and pressed it over my mouth and nose. It helped a little, not much. The stink still edged around it like it was looking for gaps. The doors kept sliding open. Steady, patient, like a person taking their time on purpose. I planted my boot against the seam and shoved, stupid and desperate. The doors didn't care. Motor-driven. They just kept going, pushing my boot like it was nothing. The gap widened enough for me to see out. Same hallway shape as the hospital. Same width. Same doors set at the same intervals. Same shitty tile pattern. But everything looked wrong. The light wasn't fluorescent white. It was sickly, like it came through thin skin. Like you were inside something living and it didn't want you there. The walls, there were layers in them. Not just paint. Like old renovations were showing through, bleeding through the new. A faded green under beige. A strip of cracked yellow under the green. Old signage shadows. The ghost of an operating placard like it had been scraped off, but the letters never left. And the floor was wet. Not puddles. Not someone spilled a mop bucket. A thin, even shine like somebody had mopped the whole hallway with something thicker than water. It reflected the light like oil. A gurney sat just outside the elevator door. Empty. Sheet pulled tight. Straps laid out neat and ready like somebody had just unbuckled a patient and stepped away. Rule 5. Back out. Take the stairs. Don't check. Don't help. Except I was inside the damn car, and the car had decided this was where we were stopping. The straps twitched, not flapping from air, not shifting because of my boot, twitched like fingers flexing. A sound came from the shaft, 3 slow knocks. Metal on metal, like somebody tapping from inside the walls. Rule 3. Don't answer. My throat tried to make noise anyway. That reflex, hear something human, make something human back. I clenched my jaw until my teeth hurt and kept my thumb mashed on door close like that could negotiate with an elevator. The doors stopped opening. They hovered maybe a foot wide, holding that little slice of hallway like it was savoring my reaction. Then the intercom crackled. Normally the elevator intercom is tinny, annoying, wired to the security desk. A speaker in the panel that makes everybody sound like they're underwater. This voice wasn't tinny. It sounded close, like somebody standing shoulder to shoulder with me inside the car, leaning toward my ear. It said my name. Not sir, not maintenance, not hey, my actual first name. The one HR uses. The one my kid yells when he's mad at me. I felt my stomach drop like the elevator had moved again. Rule 6. Pull the alarm and cut power at the disconnect. My hand moved before my brain finished arguing. I yanked the alarm switch. The bell didn't ring. No flashing light. No shrill help tone. Nothing. Just a dead click. Like the car had unplugged itself from the world. The voice sighed. Actually sighed. Like it was disappointed I'd remembered something it wanted me to forget. The gurney rolled forward on its own. Slow. Its wheels squeaked softly, polite like it was trying not to bother anyone. The straps lifted and draped over the edge, reaching. Not blowing. Reaching. I backed into the corner of the car, and the tool banged my knees. My sleeve was still over my nose. The smell leaked around it anyway and made my eyes water. It got under my skin. It felt like it wanted to live in my lungs. The doors started to close again, slow, like they were giving the gurney time. A strap slipped into the gap and slapped against the door edge. It left a wet streak like spit. The doors pinched it. The strap didn't snap like fabric. It stretched elastic. It slid through the gap like it wanted in, and it didn't mind pain. I jammed a screwdriver into the seam and levered, trying to stop the doors or cut the strap or do anything that wasn't standing there like prey. The doors shuttered. The strap pulled back outside with a wet smack, like it had decided it could wait. The doors sealed. The car lurched upward. It took off like it had never done anything weird in its life. I rode up shaking, heart hammering, tasting bleach on the back of my tongue like the air had already gotten inside me. Like it had marked me. When it stopped on an actual, real, labeled floor, B1, the doors opened normally. Bright light, regular hospital smell, a janitor buffing a corner, earbuds in, not a care in the world. A security camera blinking its calm little red eye. I bolted out like a coward. I didn't try to play it cool. I didn't try to observe. I stumbled into the hallway and braced my hands on my knees like I was about to puke. My sleeve was wet from my breath. My eyes burned. Mason was waiting at the service bank, pale as printer paper, like he'd been listening for my footsteps. He opened his mouth, probably to say something stupid like, "You okay?" I grabbed his vest and yanked him toward the machine room. Up, I snapped. "Now, where's the controller room?" He flinched like I'd hit him, then moved because he had no better plan. The machine room was above the shaft, up a locked stairwell, and through a door that always sticks because nobody ever oils the hinges. It was hot, loud, and comforting in the way only machinery is. Motors and pulleys. Contactors clicking, the steady hum of something doing what it's supposed to do. Metal you can understand. Metal that follows rules you can fix. I popped the controller cabinet and ran through the obvious stuff first. Door lock circuits, leveling sensors, safety chain, fault logs. The log had stop events labeled with a floor that wasn't in the database. 0, not once, not a glitch, multiple timestamps. I scrolled back and felt that slow, creeping anger that usually comes right before fear. Because with elevators, weird behavior has a cause. Somebody wired something wrong. Somebody changed a parameter. Somebody bypassed a safety. And in a hospital, somebody is usually some asshole contractor or a facility guy who thought he was smarter than everyone or admin cutting corners. I looked at Mason. Who touched this controller? He stared at the floor. Nobody. That's not possible, I said, louder than I meant to. The machine room ate sound and threw it back at you. These logs don't make themselves. Floor labels don't add themselves. Somebody programmed to stop. He swallowed. Facility says nobody's been in here. Facility lies, I said. Facility always lies. I traced wiring, checked the encoder, checked the selector. Everything looked fine. Too fine. Like it had been cleaned for inspection. Like someone wanted it to look innocent. Then I saw something that made my skin crawl in a way no electrical fault ever had. On the inside of the controller cabinet door, someone had drawn a small spiral with a marker. Tight and neat. Not a doodle. Not random. Intentional. It wasn't big. Maybe the size of a quarter. Black ink. Perfect curve. I stared at it and my brain did something stupid. It tried to follow it. Like a maze. Like if I just traced it with my eyes, it would finish and I'd feel better. That little itch in your head when you see an incomplete pattern and you want to complete it. Same thing that makes you pop bubble wrap. Same thing that makes you read the last line of a page, even if you're trying not to. My eyes want to sink into it. I snapped my gaze away like I caught myself staring at something private. I felt pissed at myself, embarrassed even though no one was watching. Human weakness. You want closure. You want the world to make a shape you can hold. That's how traps work. What's that? Mason asked, and his voice was small in the big mechanical room. I closed the cabinet door hard enough to rattle it. Nothing, I said. It's nothing. Who's been in here? He lifted his hands, defensive. I'm telling you, nobody. You keep saying that, I said. Either you're lying or you don't know your own building. He started to argue, and I could see the anger trying to climb over his fear. People hate being called useless when they already feel helpless. Before he could spit something back, there was a crash from the hallway outside the machine room. Metal on tile. Something heavy hitting a wall. A shout that cut off mid-word. Mason sprinted out. I grabbed my flashlight and followed, because when people shout in a hospital at night, it's never about something minor. Down the corridor, a nurse stood frozen with her hand clamped over her mouth like she was trying to hold her organs in. Her eyes were huge. Her scrub top was spattered with something dark that looked too thick to be coffee. A gurney lay on its side. One was still spinning, slow and lazy like it enjoyed the attention. There was no patient, no body, just a smear on the tile and a line of strap marks leading toward the service elevator like something had been dragged. The nurse made a choking sound. It was just there, she said, and her voice shook so hard it barely made syllables. I was taking it down to Central Supply, and it pulled. It pulled like. Her eyes flicked to me, and I saw something I didn't like. Recognition. Not, oh thank God maintenance is here. Recognition like she'd seen me before. The service elevator doors were open. Empty car. Display glowing. 0. The air coming out of the open doorway was thicker than normal air. You could see it the way you see heat above asphalt. It had that clean bleach bite on top and that warm rot under it that made your stomach clam down. The nurse whispered my name. Not loud. Not a question. Like she'd heard it from somewhere else and it had slid into her mouth. Mason took a step toward the doors, brave for half a second, like security training had kicked in. Then he hesitated. His whole body leaned back like there was an invisible line on the floor he didn't want to cross. I caught his vest again and yanked him back so hard he stumbled. He spun on me, face hot with anger, embarrassed at being pulled like a kid. What the hell? I didn't give him a speech. I didn't explain. I just shoved the rules paper into his chest and jabbed my finger at the lines like they were a weapon. Rule 2, Rule 5, Rule 6. His eyes flicked across it, and his expression changed mid-read, like somebody had turned off a light behind his eyes and left only fear. Inside the shaft, something knocked. 3 slow knocks, metal on metal, like it knew we were listening. The doors parted on a number that wasn't on the panel, and the first breath that rolled into the car hit the back of my throat like somebody cracked open a mop closet full of chlorine and raw hamburger. I stood there with my tool bag biting into my shoulder, thumb still riding the door close button-out habit, and I watched the little red display above the doors blink 0 like it had always belonged to this building. Hospitals don't have a floor 0. They have basements with ugly names. BB1, Mech, Morgue if they're honest, Central Supply if they're not. But 0 is what office towers use, so the lobby feels like it's the center of the world. A county hospital doesn't do cute. I'm an elevator mechanic. I'm a guy they call when the doors grind or the car stops 2 inches low and somebody in scrubs says it tried to eat a stretcher. I don't do ghosts. I do relays and safeties and worn-out rollers and people abusing equipment because they're tired and scared and in a hurry. That night, at 12:51 a.m., my phone lit up with the hospital security line. Not the facilities line. Security. The voice on the other end sounded like he'd been swallowing his words all shift. The kind of tight you get when you've already decided something's going to go bad and you're trying to bully reality into behaving. East Tower, he said. Service car. It's stopping where it shouldn't. Ms. leveling. Nurse almost ate it. Admins losing their shit. I asked the normal questions. Error code? Door faults. Who's on site? Anybody trapped? He didn't answer any of that right away. He just said, if you don't come now, we're moving ICU on the stairs. You want her name on that? Like I needed the guilt on top of the overtime. I drove in. The parking lot was half empty and slick with a thin winter rain. The hospital's sodium lights made everything look jaundiced. I grabbed my bag and my hard hat and walked in through the employee entrance, badge swiping me through like it always had, and for a second it felt normal. It smelled like old coffee and disinfectant, and that faint undernote of human sickness you get in any hospital if you stop pretending you don't notice it. Then the security guy met me at the metal detector and didn't even fake a smile. He was younger than me, maybe late 20s. With that shaved haircut, a lot of guys in security get like they're trying to convince the world they're not just a guy in a polyester shirt. His name Patch, said Ramirez. His eyes looked too bright in that way people's eyes get when they haven't blinked enough because they're listening for something. He waved me through 2 locked doors, not slowing down, not explaining. His radio kept crackling with voices, but he turned it down almost all the way like he didn't want the noise. We cut across a back corridor that smelled like bleach and wet cardboard, past a linen chute, past a bank of vending machines humming like tired insects. The East Tower Service Bank was at the end, down a hall nobody uses unless they're paid to be there. He stopped in front of the call button like it was hot. His finger hovered. He looked at me, then at the button again, and his mouth did this tiny twitch like he was about to say something and swallowed it instead. Then he pulled a folded piece of paper out of his pocket and shoved it at me. Read it, he said. I took it because when somebody says read it like that, you read it. It was a torn page from a legal pad, creased and smudged like it had been opened and closed 100 times. Black marker, all caps. The kind of writing somebody does when they're afraid cursive will betray them. East Tower Service Car. Op notes. 1. Do not ride it alone. If you can't get a second body, push a loaded linen cart in first. Something with weight. Something with a task. 2. If the display shows 0, do not let the doors finish opening. Hold door close until the car moves. If they open anyway, do not step out. 3. If you hear knocking from inside the shaft, do not knock back. Do not answer. Do not joke. 4. If you smell cleaner and meat at the same time, cover your nose/mouth with cloth. Do not breathe it raw. 5. If there is an empty gurney inside or outside the car with fresh straps, back out. Take stairs. Do not check. Do not help. And then underneath in smaller writing like somebody's hand got tired. If a voice says your name over the intercom, pull alarm plus kill power at disconnect. It only gets your name if you give it time. There is a greasy thumb smear along the bottom like somebody had wiped the ink while it was still wet. Under that smear, one more line, almost like a joke that wasn't a joke. If you saw 0, IT saw you back. Don't be brave. Be fast. I looked up at Ramirez. He didn't meet my eyes. He stared at the closed doors like they might blink. I should have laughed. I should have told him to stop trying to scare the contractor. I should have pointed out that the only thing an elevator sees is a sensor beam and the inside of shaft wall. But I didn't laugh, because he wasn't playing. He wasn't trying to impress me. His hand shook just a little when he took the page back and folded it again like it mattered which direction the paper faced. What is this? I asked. He swallowed. They found it taped inside the call station cover, like somebody put it there on purpose. Who's they? He finally looked at me then, and there was this flash of anger in it, like he hated that he was the one standing here. Maintenance, nurses, everybody. It's been, he stopped, glanced down the hall like he thought someone might be listening. It's been doing shit. I shifted my bag. The weight dug into my shoulder. I felt that old familiar irritation rise up. Hospitals always do this. They run equipment into the ground, ignore it, then act shocked when it starts to bite. Okay, I said. Let's see the problem. Ramirez reached out like he was going to press the button, hesitated, then jabbed it fast and yanked his hand back. The elevator answered with a soft chime. The doors slid open. Everything looked normal inside. Scuffed steel walls. Service panel with the firefighter key switch. A floor panel with the usual basement and first and second and third. No cero. No weird extra button. Just a blank where a lobby button would be in a different building. I stepped in because that's literally my job, and because Rule 1 didn't even register in my head as rule yet. It registered as bullshit. Ramirez did not step in. He stayed outside like the threshold was a line. Come on, I said, and I heard the edge of my voice. I hate fear when it tries to hand me more work. You call me in here. I need you for the fire service test anyway. He shook his head once, sharp. I can't. I started to make a comment. A mean one. Something about security getting spooked by a piece of paper. Then the door slid shut behind me with that smooth, quiet whoosh. The kind of sound you only get from a car that's been serviced recently. Too smooth, like it was proud of itself. I pressed door open because I didn't like being sealed in while Ramirez stood out there. It didn't respond right away. Half-second delay. Then the doors crept open like they were thinking about it. Ramirez was already backing away. Hey, I snapped, and the doors started closing again before I finished the word. I didn't press anything. The car moved. It dipped downward with that initial stomach lift. I watched the indicator above the doors tick down. 2, 3. It paused like it caught its breath. Then it dropped. 0. My mouth went dry, so fast it felt like the inside of my cheeks glued to my teeth. The rules page snapped into my brain like a mousetrap. Rule 2. Hold door close. Don't let them finish opening. I slapped the door close button and held it down hard enough that my thumb joint complained. The doors still opened. Not fast, not all the way, just enough for a thin seam of whatever was out there to leak into the car. The smell hit me and my eyes watered instantly. Chlorine clean and sharp like pool chemicals, and underneath it's something warm and wrong, like meat left out in a dumpster in August. Rule 4. I yanked my sleeve up over my nose so hard I pulled fabric in my mouth. The smell still found its way in around the edges. It sat on my tongue like a film. The doors kept sliding. I planted my boot against the seam and shoved like a fucking idiot, like my boot was stronger than a motor. The doors didn't care. They opened at the same patient pace. The gap widened enough that I could see out. It was the same hallway layout as the basement, but wrong in a way that made my eyes not want to focus. The tile looked older, like a pattern you'd see in a hospital from the 80s. The lights weren't bright fluorescents. They were dim and yellowed, like light filtered through nicotine-stained glass. The walls had layers. I swear to God I could see paint under paint, like old renovations bleeding through, as if the building couldn't keep its own skin on. And the floor was wet. Not puddles, not spills. A thin, glossy wetness like someone had mopped with something thicker than water. It reflected the lights with a kind of greasy shine. Just outside the door, parked like it had been waiting, was a gurney. Empty, clean sheet. Straps laid out neat and fresh like someone had just unbuckled a patient and stepped away. Rule 5. Back out. Take the stairs. Don't check. Don't help. Except I was already in the car, and my thumb was already white-knuckling the door close button like it was a rosary. The straps twitched, not like fabric in a breeze. They twitched like a muscle. A sound came from a shaft behind me. 3 slow knocks. Metal on metal. Not random banging like a loose shoe. Deliberate. Rule 3. My throat tried to answer anyway. It's a stupid human reflex. You hear a knock, you want to knock back. You want to say, "Who's there?" like the world is still a normal place where questions have answers. I clenched my jaw until my teeth hurt and kept my thumb pinned down. The doors stopped opening at maybe a foot wide, like the elevator was enjoying the moment. Like it wanted me to see enough to want more. Then the intercom crackled. Service elevators have intercoms that connect to the security desk. Tinny, annoying, always too loud. This voice wasn't tinny. It sounded close, like someone standing just outside the doors with their mouth right at my ear. It said my name, not maintenance, not sir, my first name, the one on my paperwork, the one my ex still uses when she wants to remind me I'm human. John. The hair on my arms lifted. Even under my jacket, I felt it. My hand moved before my brain finished arguing. I yanked the alarm switch inside the car. No bell, no flushing, no comforting hospital response. Just a dead, dull click, like the elevator had been listening and decided the alarm didn't count down here. The voice sighed, actually sighed, like it was annoyed I'd remembered. The gurney outside rolled forward by itself, slow and smooth. The wheels squeaked softly like they were well-oiled. The straps lifted. Not all of them. 2, then 3. They draped over the side and reached toward the gap. I backed into the corner of the car. My tool bag banged my knees. I tasted chlorine through my sleeve. The doors started closing again, slow, like they were giving the straps time. One strap slid into the gap and slapped wetly against the inside edge of the door. It left a dark streak like spit, like oil. The doors kept closing, pinching it. The strap didn't snap. It stretched, elastic, then slid through the narrowing gap like it wanted in. Like it wanted me. I jammed my screwdriver into the seam and levered, trying to stop the doors. The doors shuddered against the jam, hesitated, then forced themselves a fraction more. Motors don't care about feelings. The strap abruptly slipped back out with a wet smack, like it had decided it could wait. The doors sealed shut. The car lurched upward like nothing happened. I rode up shaking so hard my teeth chattered. Not because of cold, because adrenaline makes your body do stupid things when you don't have somewhere to throw the fear. When it stopped on basement 1, an actual floor, the doors opened with a friendly ding. Bright white light. Normal tile. A janitor pushing a buffer, earbuds in, not looking at me. A camera blinking red on the corner of the ceiling like a bored eye. I bolted out like a coward. Ramirez was waiting on the other side of the hallway, pale as printer paper. He didn't ask what happened like he didn't want words. He just watched my face, and his shoulders sagged like he'd been holding them up by force. It went, I said. My voice sounded wrong, thick. It went to 0. He nodded once like I'd confirmed gravity. Machine room, I said. Now. He started to protest. Protocol, key access, whatever. And I grabbed his sleeve and hauled him anyway. He stumbled, swore, then kept up. He didn't fight hard. He'd been wanting to get away from those doors since he called me. The East Tower machine room was on a restricted mezzanine, up a service stair that smelled like old steam and rubber. The air got hotter with each landing. You could hear the hum of the motors before you opened the door, and that hum was comforting because it was normal. It was something you could measure. I popped the machine room door with my key and stepped into the heat. Everything up there looked fine. Controller cabinets, motor, brake, sheaves, dust on top of everything like a thin gray blanket. The kind of dust that tells you nobody lives up here long enough to make a mess. I killed the fan in my head and went to work. I opened the controller cabinet, checked the log. There were stop events logged at a floor label that wasn't in the database. 0. Not a glitch, not a random character. It was there multiple times, like it was a legit floor the system recognized. Ramirez hovered behind me, not touching anything, hands shoved into his pockets like he was trying to keep them from shaking. Somebody reprogrammed it, I muttered. He gave a short laugh that wasn't humor. Yeah, you think. I traced wiring, checked the encoder, checked the door lock circuit. Everything was within spec. Too within spec. Like the hardware was innocent and the building was the liar. When I closed the cabinet, I noticed something that made my stomach drop in a quieter, deeper way. On the inside of the controller cabinet door, where a tech might stick a schematic or a sticker, someone had drawn a tight little spiral in black marker. Clean lines, smooth curve, the kind of spiral you draw without thinking when you're on the phone. My eyes locked on it, and for a half second my brain did this stupid thing where it wanted to follow the line, to complete it, to get to the center, like it was a puzzle, and if I finished it, I'd get the answer. I jerked my gaze away, so hard my neck cracked. Ramirez noticed. What? I didn't want to say spiral because I didn't want the word in the room. I moved my hand like I was wiping sweat. My palm was damp. Nothing, I lied. Just somebody tagged the cabinet. Ramirez didn't look convinced. He leaned forward anyway, and I snapped sharper than I meant to. Don't, I said. He froze. We stared at each other for a beat, both of us too old to be taking orders from a stranger. I felt the anger rise up because anger is easier than saying, I'm scared. Then a crash echoed from out in the hallway beyond the machine room. Metal against tile. A shout. Another shout. Higher. Ramirez was moving before I was. He bolted out like he'd been waiting for any excuse to be anywhere else. I followed, tool bag slamming my thigh, heart already racing again. Down the corridor, near the service elevator, a nurse stood frozen with her hand over her mouth. Her scrub top was spattered with something dark, and for one stupid second my brain tried to label it as coffee because coffee is safer than blood. A gurney lay on its side. One was still spinning. No patient, no body, just a smear across the tile and a line of strap marks leading toward the elevator like somebody dragged something heavy. The service elevator doors were open. Empty car. The display above them glowed. 0. The nurse made a sound like she was trying not to vomit. Her eyes were huge. She looked at Ramirez like he was supposed to fix it because he wore a uniform. Ramirez took one step toward the open doors, brave for half a second. I grabbed the back of his vest and yanked him so hard he stumbled. He spun on me with sudden fury like I'd insulted him in front of God. What the fuck? I didn't argue. I shoved the rules page up against his chest with my good hand and stabbed a finger at Rule 2 and Rule 5, hard enough to crease the paper. He looked down, red, and his face changed from anger to sick understanding. Like he'd been trying to pretend he didn't believe it until he saw the words again. Something knocked from inside the shaft. 3 slow knocks. The nurse whispered, John. Not loud, not a question. Like the name had slid into her mouth and she couldn't spit it out. My stomach turned over. Don't. I snapped at her. Don't say that. She blinked at me like she hadn't meant to. Like it wasn't her idea. The intercom didn't crackle this time. It didn't need to. The air already felt thick around the open doors. That chlorine meat stink rolled out in a lazy wave like it owned the hall. Rule 6, if a voice uses your name, pull alarm, cut power. I didn't wait for the voice to be polite enough to use the speaker. I ran back to the machine room. Ramirez shouted after me, something about admin, about shutting down the bank, about fire code. I didn't answer. I hit the main disconnect. Big red handle. Hard pull. The motor whined down. The hum died. Lights in the hall flickered. A building alarm started wailing because hospitals hate sudden power loss and they tell everyone about it. I ran back out. The service elevator doors down the hall stayed open anyway. That's the part that still makes me want to punch a wall when I think about it. Power rules didn't apply. The car didn't care. It held its mouth open like it was waiting to be fed. The stink thickened and my eyes watered. The nurse backed away, stumbling like she couldn't decide between running and freezing. Somebody shouted farther down the corridor. Security radios crackled louder now. People were coming. Ramirez stood between me and the open doors like he was trying to block it with his body. For all his fear, he had that instinct. Stand in front. Be a barrier. Protect the normal world, because that's what his job is supposed to be. "John," he said, voice shaking, "don't." "Then you shut it." I shot back. He flinched because he knew he couldn't. I yanked my sleeve up over my nose again and stepped forward anyway. Because sometimes you do dumb things because dumb feels like doing something. I grabbed the door edge with both hands and tried to force it shut. The metal felt slick. Not just cold steel slick. Slick like it had been rubbed with fat. My gloves squeaked against it. From inside the car, I heard movement. Not footsteps. Not a person shifting weight. A wet slide. Like something heavy rolling slightly. Like a body being moved on a plastic sheet. I made myself not look into the dark space past the threshold. I kept my eyes on my hands, on the door edge, on my boots, on anything that was still part of my world. Then I saw it anyway, because you can't not see movement when it's right at your feet. A strap lay across the threshold, stretched into the hallway. At the end of it, the strap wasn't cut. It wasn't buckled. It looped into a shape that made my stomach drop. A crude hand, 5 little strap fingers flexing and curling. It reached toward my boot like it knew what feet do. I kicked it away hard. My boot thudded like I kicked a wet rope. The strap snapped back fast, not like elastic, like a tongue retracting. It left a smear on my toe that looked like dark spit. I swore loud. The word bounced off the tile. Ramirez grabbed my shoulder. "Stop!" He hissed, like he was trying to keep me from being seen, from being noticed, like the elevator was a predator and my movement was blood in the water. Then the intercom crackled. Not tinny, not distant, close. My name again, John. And behind it, layered under it like a second audio track, a thinner voice, high, desperate, shaking, like someone trapped in a closet with their hands over their mouth. "Dad!" My chest clenched so hard it actually hurt, like my ribs tried to close around my heart. It wasn't exactly my daughter's voice, but it was close enough that my brain, for a split second, didn't give a shit about exact. It heard the shape of panic. It heard the word dad the way she says it when she's scared of thunder and wants to pretend she's not. My eyes went wet instantly, which pissed me off because tears are useless. I took one step toward the open car before I stopped myself. Ramirez's hand tightened on my shoulder. His fingers dug in. "John," he said, and there was a warning in it. "That's not." "Shut up." I snapped because if he finished that sentence out loud, my brain might accept it, and part of me didn't want to accept it. Part of me wanted to believe it because believing it would mean there was something I could do, something I could fix, something I could pull out of the dark with my hands. That's the hook. Not gore. Not fear. Familiar. The strap hand slid out again, slower this time, like it knew it had me. Like it knew it didn't have to rush. The thin voice repeated, "Dad, please." And it did a little hitch on the please that made my throat close because my daughter does that hitch when she's trying not to cry. My tool bag felt suddenly heavier, like gravity doubled. I looked at my hands. Grease under my nails. Calluses. The dumb little cut on my knuckle from earlier that day. Real hands. And for a second, in the corner of my eye, I saw that tight spiral again, like it had burned itself onto the back of my eyelids. A pattern you want to finish. A hallway you want to step into. A door you want to push all the way open. I swallowed hard enough to hurt. And I moved because even knowing it's a trap doesn't make your body stop. I swallowed hard enough to hurt. And I moved anyway because even knowing it's a trap doesn't make your body stop wanting to fix the thing that's screaming. My boot slid half a step closer to the threshold, and the stink thickened like a wet rag pressed over my face. Chlorine and something sweet underneath it that shouldn't be sweet. Rocket's sweet when it's deep. Ramirez's hand clamped harder on my shoulder. John, don't say it's not her. I snapped, because if he said it out loud, my spine might finally accept it, and then I'd have to live with the fact that my kid's voice can be worn like a mask. I needed one more second of denial. Denial is a painkiller. The strap hand crept out again, slower now, like it was confident. The little finger loops flexed and relaxed, patient as a spider. The voice did that hitch again. Dad, please. It's dark. I couldn't stand still. Standing still felt like letting it win. My hands twitched uselessly at my sides. My tool bag felt like it weighed 50 pounds. My sleeve was still over my mouth, damp from my own breath, and the damp made the bleach smell cling. I looked at the open car without looking into it, if that makes sense. Like staring at the edge of a pit and keeping your eyes on the rim. Where's facilities? I barked at Ramirez. Where's the on-call? The admin? Somebody with keys and a spine? They're coming, he said, and his voice cracked on the last word like a kid. The nurse down the hall finally moved, stumbling backward like her legs didn't want to cooperate. She bumped a wall, slid her shoulder along it. Eyes locked on the open doors like if she blinked the hallway would change again. A couple orderlies rounded the corner at a jog, pushing an empty wheelchair between them like it was a shield. They slowed when they saw the open service elevator. One of them, big guy, shaved head, made a face like he smelled something bad, and then his face changed when the smell hit him for real. His eyes watered. He lifted his shirt collar over his nose automatically, same instinct as me. Same stupid human habit. What the fuck is that? He said. Back. Ramirez snapped at them, loud and sharp like he was grateful for a normal security command. Back the fuck up. This elevator's out. The big orderly took one step forward anyway, because people don't like being told no when they're tired and think they own the hall. We gotta move a patient. Not on this car, I said, and my voice came out ugly. Not tonight. The thin voice under the intercom, my kid's almost voice, whispered, Dad, hurry. My stomach flipped. My hand twitched toward the doors again. Ramirez jerked me back by the shoulder like he'd seen a dog about to run into traffic. Don't do that. Then what? I hissed. We just leave it open. Let it leak. The strap hand slid farther out. The looped thumb hooked the lip of the threshold like it was testing grip. The wet smear it left looked black in the fluorescent light. The big orderly stared at it, confused, like his brain didn't have a folder labeled strap hand. His mouth opened, and he didn't get a word out. 3 knocks sounded from inside the shaft. Close, like they were right behind the paneling. The big orderly flinched and looked up at the ceiling like he thought something was dropping on him. The other orderly grabbed his arm and pulled him back, whispering something I couldn't hear. It didn't matter. I could see the fear hit them both like a punch. The smell alone was enough. The smell carries intent. You can feel it. A woman in a blazer and badge lanyard came fast down the hall, heels clicking like gunshots. She had that hospital admin face, tight smile, narrowed eyes, posture full of I'm in charge of suffering. Behind her was a guy in scrubs with a stethoscope and a clipboard, breathing hard like he'd been dragged out of a warm room. What is going on? She demanded, not looking at the elevator at first, looking at all of us like we were the inconvenience. Ramirez started talking over himself. Ma'am, the service car. I'm the administrator on call. She cut in louder. Why are we standing here? Why is the alarm going off? Why do the lights flicker? Who authorized? I killed power, I said, and she swung her gaze onto me like I'd slapped her. You did what? I pulled the main disconnect. Machine room. Because this car is stopping on a floor that doesn't exist, and it's I stopped because the words sounded insane even in my mouth. Bleach meat. Strap hand. Voice. My kid's name. It's not safe. Her eyes flicked to my tool bag, my boots, my badge clip. She saw contractor, which in her brain translates to disposable. You cannot just shut down critical infrastructure in a hospital. Critical infrastructure shouldn't open its doors into hell. I snapped back. The doctor with the clipboard made a small choking sound. Half laugh, half panic. What? The administrator's mouth tightened into a line. Excuse me? I pointed at the open doors. Look, she looked, finally, and her face did that thing where authority tries to hold its shape and fails. Her eyes widened just a fraction before she pulled them back under control, like she was lowering a blind. That's a gurney strap. It's moving, Ramirez said, and his voice was shaking now, not trying to hide it. The admin stared at the strap hand like she was trying to force it to behave with sheer disbelief. This is some kind of prank. The intercom crackled again, close as breath. John. She whipped her head toward me. Who said that? I didn't answer. My whole body went cold because it didn't just say my name. It said it like it knew me, like it enjoyed the shape of it. Then softer, the thin voice, Dad. The administrator blinked hard, and for a moment I saw a raw human in her face. A flash of something like sympathy, like she understood exactly what button had been pushed. Then she slammed it back down. Turn that off, she snapped at me like I controlled it. I cut power, I said, almost laughing. There is no off. The strap hand twitched, and then it changed. Not dramatically, not like a movie. It just got longer. Like whatever was inside took a breath and decided to use more of itself. The strap slid out another foot, leaving a wet trail. The big orderly swore and backed into the wall. Nope. The doctor took one step forward like he was going to investigate, because doctors are trained to approach the thing that hurts people, and then he stopped dead when the smell hit him full. His face went gray. That's decay. Exactly, I said. So please, for the love of God, stop yelling at me and help me close it. Ow, the admin demanded, sharp, like she'd rather interrogate than admit she didn't know. I looked around. Hospital corridor, supply closets, fire equipment, the world of objects. We block it, I said. We jam the doors. We keep it from opening wider. We keep people away. And the ICU patients? She snapped. We have transport routes. We have. Then reroute. I shot back. This bank is out. Her eyes flashed. You do not have the authority. Ramirez stepped in between us, voice breaking. Mom, please. We can't. A strap finger curled around the edge of the threshold, like it was testing the grip again. The wetness glistened. It looked like spit, but darker. The admin's throat bobbed. She stared at it, then at me, and for the first time she looked less like a boss and more like a person trapped in a bad decision. Close the doors, she said, through clenched teeth. Now. I'm trying, I said, and I did the dumb thing again, because my brain kept reaching for old solutions. I grabbed the door edge and shoved hard. The slick metal slid under my glove. It felt like pushing against a living thing that didn't want to close its mouth. The doors moved an inch, maybe two, and then stopped like something inside the car held them apart. A wet sliding sound came from within the open gap. A heavier shift now, like whatever was inside leaned closer. The thin voice said, "It's cold. Please." My vision tunneled. My heart hit my ribs so hard it felt like bruising. Ramirez's hand tightened again. "John, look at me," he said, fierce. "Look at me." I forced my eyes to him. His face was slick with sweat despite the cold hallway. His eyes were red around the edges. "It's not her," he said. "It's not your kid. It's using that." I hated him for saying it. I loved him for saying it. I wanted to punch him and hug him in the same breath. My hand shook. "Okay," I said, and it came out like a lie. "Okay." A security radio blared suddenly, louder now. "All units, East Tower Service Bank. Keep the area clear. Repeat." Ramirez slapped the volume down like noise would draw attention. Like attention mattered. I scanned the corridor and saw the supply closet door across the hall. Big white door with a push bar. A fire extinguisher cabinet on the wall. A rolling cart parked abandoned near a linen chute. Objects with weight. Objects with tasks. Rule 1 flashed in my head again. Something with a job. Maybe that's why the linen cart thing mattered. Maybe whatever this was like jobs. Like things that moved because they were supposed to. Like systems. Ramirez, I said, voice tight. That supply closet. He blinked. What? I'm gonna load that doorway. You keep everyone back. You. I hesitated. You don't say my name again. You don't let anyone say it. Got it. His jaw clenched. He nodded. I jogged across the hall, shoved the supply closet door open, and was hit with the warm plastic smell of medical supplies. Boxes stacked. Saline. Gauze. A mop bucket. Floor wax. All the stupid, normal stuff that keeps a building alive. I grabbed the heaviest thing I could see without thinking. 2 cases of saline bags, and hauled them out. My back twinged. Old injury. Didn't care. As I crossed back, the thin voice said, "Dad, it hurts." I gritted my teeth, so hard my jaw popped. I shoved the cases right into the elevator threshold like I was building a dam. The strap hand slapped at them with a wet smack that made my skin crawl. It left a black print on the cardboard like oil. The admin gasped, involuntary, and then immediately looked angry that she'd gasped. I went back for more. A bucket of floor wax. A big box of absorbent pads. A metal cart with a squeaky wheel. I shoved everything into the doorway until it looked like a cluttered barricade, a panic wall of hospital junk. The strap hand hit the pile again, harder. A case slid, saline bags squishing inside like living things. The strap fingers curled around the edge of a box and pulled, and the box moved a fraction like it weighed nothing. "Hold it!" I snapped at the big orderly without even thinking, and to his credit, he moved. He grabbed the cart and leaned his weight into it, face twisted with fear and disgust. "Holy shit," he whispered. "Holy shit." The doctor with the clipboard was backing away, hand over his mouth, eyes wide like he'd walked into something that violated every rule he'd learned. "We need to evacuate," he said, mostly to himself. "No." The admin snapped because she heard the word evacuate and felt the paperwork explode in her mind. We need to secure." "Secure what?" I barked. "A mouth." The intercom crackled again, closer, almost amused. "John." Behind it, the thin voice, "Dad." Then underneath, both like a third layer sliding in, a wet little sound. A laugh? A breath? Something too close to joy. My stomach turned. I reached for the fire extinguisher on the wall, like it was a weapon, even though it's not. It's a can of powder, but it's something you can do with your hands. I yanked it free, pulled the pin, and stepped up to the gap. Ramirez started to shout something, but I was already squeezing the handle. A white blast of dry chemical erupted into the open car. It poured in like snow, coating everything. Boxes, straps, the slick door edge, my gloves, the air. It filled the gap, so thick I couldn't see past it. The thin voice cut off mid-word like a tape got yanked. The strap hand recoiled, fast like I'd sprayed a cat. For half a second, the hallway felt almost normal again. Alarms still wailing somewhere. People shouting in distant corridors. Feet pounding. The fluorescent lights buzzing. The smell was still there, but the powder muted it, made it chalky. I kept spraying until the extinguisher ran out and the handle went limp. The admin stood stiff, hands clenched at her sides like she didn't know what to do with them. Her face was pale under her makeup. What is that?" she whispered, and it wasn't a command anymore. It was a human asking. "Not my fucking job title," I muttered. "That's what?" Ramirez's radio crackled. "Ramirez status." Quiet. Ramirez hissed into it, like even the radio could summon something. The strap hand slid back out again, slow and deliberate, emerging through the powder cloud. It looked darker now against the white dust, wet black on chalk. It didn't reach for the boxes this time. It reached for me. It shot out fast, wrapped around my left wrist, and the cold hit first, shockingly cold like grabbing a metal pole in January. Then pressure, tight and immediate, like a tourniquet snapping down. My skin prickled. My fingers went numb in a heartbeat. I yanked back hard, instinct, and it yanked harder. Not like a rope, like something swallowing, like my arm was being reeled into a throat. I didn't think bravery. I thought leverage. I thought of the stupid ways you cut cable ties. I slammed my forearm down onto the sharp metal edge of the door frame and pulled, trying to shear the strap. It didn't shear. It stretched. It held. It bit deeper, and I felt my pulse throb under it like my wrist was a trapped animal. I swore loud, the kind of swear that comes from deep panic. Fuck. The big orderly jumped back, letting go of the cart. Jesus, hold the goddamn barricade. I shouted at him, voice raw. Hold it. He flinched like I'd hit him, then grabbed the cart again, shaking. Ramirez lunged forward like he was gonna grab my arm, then stopped short like he was afraid he'd get tagged too. Knife, I gasped. Give me a knife. I don't, Ramirez stammered. I don't have. Scissors, I snarled. Anything sharp. The admin looked around like her brain was searching hospital inventory. Trauma shears, she said suddenly, and pointed at the nurse, who was still frozen, face streaked with tears and powder. You have shears, don't you? Get them. The nurse blinked like waking up. Her hands fumbled at her pocket, and for a second I thought she wouldn't find them. Then she pulled out trauma shears with shaking fingers and stepped forward. The strap yanked again. My shoulder popped with a sick pain like something half dislocated. My whole body lurched forward. The barricade shifted. A box slid. The gap into the car widened a fraction, and the smell punched through the powder like it had been waiting behind it. Bleach. Meat. A hint of something sour like vomit. The nurse reached toward my wrist with the shears. Don't touch it. Ramirez barked at her, too late. The strap hand twitched, and a second strap whipped out like a lash, snapping toward her fingers. She screamed and jerked back, dropping the shears. They clattered on the tile and slid, scraping. The admin made a broken little sound and then forced herself forward, snatching the shears up like she was taking control again. Hold still, she snapped at me, voice trembling but angry because anger is armor. Anoshit, Ishuka. She got the blades around the strap on my wrist and squeezed hard. Metal shears cut fabric. They cut leather. They cut denim. They did not cut this. The blades bit, the strap dented, stretched, then slipped out like it was oily. The shears squealed. The admin stared at the shears like they'd betrayed her. What? The strap tightened and pulled. The barricade shifted again, and in the momentary opening I saw something inside the car. Not a clear shape, not a monster face, nothing cinematic, just a wet, pale surface pressed near the gap like the inside of a cheek, glistening under the sick light. And behind it, something darker moved like a tongue rolling. I gagged. My knees went weak. The thin voice came back, right in my ear now, not even through the intercom. Dad, please, please, please. My brain went stupid again. My chest clenched. My eyes burned. Ramirez grabbed my belt and yanked me back, hard, like he was trying to counter the pull. John, fight it, he grunted, teeth bared. I wheezed. I am. The strap jerked again, and my left hand slammed into the door frame. Pain shot on my arm. The world narrowed to my wrist, my fingers the cold bite of that thing. I looked at the door seam, the narrow gap where the rollers sit, the place doors slide into, the place you can jam if you're desperate. The only mechanical truth in this whole nightmare was that a door can't close if something is physically in its track, and it can't pull you in if it closes. My mind did the math in an ugly flash. Sacrifice a part to save the whole. Old union guy logic. Lose a finger, keep your arm. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to think it. But my body moved anyway. I grabbed the metal door edge with my right hand, and with my left, still trapped, I shoved my mangled glove and fingers toward that seam. Ramirez saw what I was doing, and his eyes went wide. No, he breathed. No, no, no. Either I go in or I do this. I rasped, and I didn't know if I meant the elevator or the other thing. The strap yanked. My left hand slipped into the gap between door and frame. Then I did the stupidest, most violent thing I've ever done to myself on purpose. I hit the door close button with my right hand and held it like my life depended on it, because it did. The door shuddered. They started to slide. The strap on my wrist tightened like it was panicking now, like it didn't like the idea of the mouth closing. The door moved another inch. My fingers were in the seam. Bone does not negotiate with steel. The door slammed shut on my hand. The crack sound wasn't dramatic. It was sickeningly small, like snapping a chicken wing. White pain shot up my arm like electricity. My vision went bright and then went dark around the edges. I screamed, full throat, animal, no pride left in me. The strap recoiled at the last second, whipping back into the gap with a wet smack like it didn't want to be pinched. The pull on my wrist released so fast it felt like my skin peeled. The door sealed. For a heartbeat, it worked. My left hand hung half-crushed in the seam. Glove split, fingers wrong shapes, blood already pouring. The powder on the floor turned pink where it hit it. I could smell iron under the bleach stink, and that made me gag harder than the rot smell did. Ramirez grabbed me, yelling my name like he'd forgotten the rule, but I couldn't even blame him. The admin was shouting too, words tumbling out, call a code, get ortho, tourniquet, like she could paper over what she'd seen with procedures. The elevator display above the doors flickered wildly, numbers jumping like a slot machine. 3, 2, 1, 0, 7, 0, 0, 0. Then it went blank. The lights in the hall buzzed. The smell ebbed a fraction, like something pulled back when it didn't get what it wanted. I tried to pull my hand out. It didn't come out clean. The door's seam held it like teeth. I yanked, and something tore. Sicking tendon. I don't know. I just know the pain changed from sharp to ripping, like tearing wet paper. I screamed again, and the sound didn't feel like it came from me. It felt like it came out of the hallway itself. I ripped harder because the alternative was passing out with my hand still in the mouth of a door that didn't obey power. My ring finger didn't come with me. It's a weird thing to say so calmly, but that's how it was. I felt a tug, then a release, and when I stumbled back clutching what was left of my hand to my chest, there was a sudden lightness where my ring finger should have been. Like a missing tooth. Like your tongue keeps going to the empty spot because your brain can't accept the gap. Blood ran down my wrist and dripped off my elbow. It splattered the powder on the floor in fat drops. My glove sagged, filling with red. I could still smell bleach and meat, but now the iron smell of my own blood cut through it, anchoring me in my body in a way that made me want to puke and cry at the same time. Ramirez hauled me away from the doors, half carrying me. I didn't fight. My legs were shaking like they belonged to someone else. The big, orderly stepped in to help, face white, lips moving in silent prayer or swearing, I couldn't tell. The admin barked in her phone, voice back in command mode, because command mode is easier than screaming. We have an injury. We have, yes now. East Tower. Service corridor. Tell them it's a hand crush. Do not. She glanced at the elevator doors like they might hear. Do not bring extra staff. Just the necessary. Even then, she was trying to manage witnesses. As Ramirez dragged me, I looked back once because some part of me needed to confirm the doors were closed. They were, but the seam where they met had a thin, wet line now, like something had pressed against it from the other side. And there, on the powder-dusted steel, was a faint spiral, smudged like a thumbprint. Tight, neat, like the one inside the controller cabinet. My stomach dropped all over again, even through the pain. They got me to the ER fast. It's a hospital. They're good at blood. The nurse who'd frozen earlier came with us, still shaking. And when we hit the brighter hallways full of normal people, she started to cry like the fear finally had permission. A doctor in the ER bay asked what happened, and Ramirez opened his mouth and then shut it again like the truth was too big to fit. Industrial injury, the admin said crisply, stepping in like she'd rehearsed it. Door mechanism. Contractor error. She hesitated just a fraction, then said he jammed the door, which wasn't wrong. It just wasn't the whole shape of it. They cut my glove off, and I almost blacked out when air hit the exposed mess of my fingers. My hand looked like somebody had stepped on it. Bones where bones don't go. Skin split. Powder stuck to blood like paste. The ER doc, young guy, tired eyes, whistled low. "Jesus," he muttered, and then caught himself like he wasn't supposed to react. Okay, pain meds, x-ray, ortho." A nurse asked me my name and date of birth, because that's how hospitals keep you from disappearing into paperwork. When I said my name, I swear to God the overhead speaker in the hallway crackled, and my whole body tensed like a dog expecting a hit. The nurse looked at me like I was crazy. They pumped me full of something that made the pain float away and also made my brain drift into ugly, vivid flashes. The elevator doors, the strap hand, the voice. My kid's almost voice saying "Dad." Ortho came, then plastics, then a surgeon with gray hair who looked like he'd seen 1,000 hands destroyed by machines and didn't have space in him for surprise anymore. He leaned over my mangled hand like it was a broken tool, and in a way it was. He poked gently, asked me if I could feel here, could I move that? I tried. Nothing behaved. "You're gonna lose at least one digit," he said, calm. "Possibly more. We'll do what we can." I laughed once, a sharp bark that turned into a cough. "Tell the elevator," I said, and he just blinked. They wheeled me down a hallway, and for a second, I saw the ceiling tiles go by like a moving grid, and it reminded me of that spiral, of the pattern you want to complete, and I started to panic again because the grid lines looked like they curved. I told myself to stop. I told myself to focus on my breathing, on my good hand, on the cool air, on anything. As they pushed me, I heard my name again, faint from somewhere behind. "John." I jerked my head, eyes wild, and the nurse pushing my bed said, "What? Did you?" I started. "No," she said quickly, and then her face softened with pity. "No, it's the meds. You're okay." But her eyes flicked away when she said it, like she wasn't sure. Surgery is a blur. Lights, cold, mask, a countdown that never finished. When I woke up, my left hand was wrapped in thick white bandages, elevated, throbbing like a heartbeat that didn't belong to me. My mouth tasted like metal and plastic. My throat hurt. A nurse checked my vitals and asked my pain level, and I wanted to tell her my pain level was floor 0, but I didn't because humor felt like tempting fate. Ramirez came in later, looking like he'd been slapped. He stood at the foot of the bed, like he didn't know if he was allowed closer. "I'm sorry," he said finally, voice low. I stared at him. "You didn't shut the door on my hand." He swallowed. I should have stopped you." I let out a breath that felt like it scraped. "If you'd stopped me, it would have taken my whole arm. Or my head. Or..." I stopped because saying, "or my kid" felt like cursing her. Ramirez's eyes were red. "Admin's making it clean," he said. "They're writing it up like an accident." "Was it an accident?" I asked, and my voice came out flat. The drugs made it easy to say things like that. Ramirez looked away. He nodded once, tiny. "No." I tried to sit up, and the room spun. The nurse pushed me back down. "Don't," she said gently. "You're not going anywhere." But part of me wanted to get up and run back to the machine room and rip that controller cabinet open and scrub that spiral off with my bloody hand like it would erase what happened. Part of me wanted to go down to the service corridor and weld those doors shut. They kept me overnight. Hospitals are weird when you're the patient. You hear other people's misery through curtains. You smell other people's fear. It makes you feel less alone and more trapped at the same time. I dozed, and in that half-sleep state, I kept hearing knocking. 3 slow knocks, always just as I was about to fall deeper. At one point, I woke up sweating, sure I'd heard my daughter's voice in the hallway, and I sat up so fast pain shot through my arm like fire. A nurse rushed in, alarmed, and I almost begged her to tell me my kid wasn't here. I didn't want her anywhere near this building. I called my ex at 3:12 a.m. with my good hand shaking, and she answered furious because she thought something happened to our kid. When I told her I was in the hospital and I'd hurt my hand, she went quiet in that scary way. Then she started asking questions. How, why? Where's our daughter? And I lied because I didn't want to say the elevator called me dad. I told her it was a mechanical failure. I told her I'd be fine. She said, John, why aren't you telling me? And I couldn't answer because I didn't know how to put floor zero into words without sounding like a man losing his mind. The next day, a woman from risk management came in with a clipboard and a smile that didn't touch her eyes. She introduced herself like we were at a networking event. Just a few questions for the incident report. She said, cheerful. Hier. You mean the lie you're writing? Her smile tightened. We want an accurate record. Accurate, I said, and my voice rose despite myself. You want accurate? Your elevator opened into a floor that doesn't exist, and a gurney strap grabbed my wrist. The woman blinked once, slow. She didn't laugh. She didn't look shocked. That's what scared me. She just looked annoyed, like I'd said something inconvenient. Mr. She glanced at her paperwork. Mr. Cole, you experienced a traumatic injury. It's normal to. Don't, I snapped. Don't you fucking normal me. She held up a hand like I was a barking dog. We're documenting the mechanical malfunction that resulted in your injury. Mechanical malfunction. I repeated, tasting the words. They tasted like bleach. She leaned closer, voice lower. You jammed your hand in the door track. That's what the cameras show. My skin prickled. Cameras? Hallway cameras, she said, calm. And statement from staff. You were attempting to close the doors. You injured yourself. It's tragic, but it's straightforward. Straightforward. Like there weren't strap fingers. Like there wasn't a voice wearing my kid's mouth. Why was the door open if power was cut? I demanded. She paused just a fraction, then smiled again. Elevators have backup systems. Emergency operations. Bullshit, I said. Sir, she said, still calm. You're in pain. You're upset. But we need you to cooperate so we can process your workers' compensation and get you the support you need. Support. Like a pat on the head. I wanted to lunge at her clipboard and scribble a spiral across it. I wanted to shove the rules page in her face and force her to read it out loud. Instead, I looked away because my hand throbbed and my chest felt hollow. Fine, I said, voice tight. Write your report. She wrote it. She left. The world stayed tilted. They discharged me with a bag of meds, a stack of instructions, and a follow-up appointment schedule that looked like a part-time job. My left hand was wrapped and heavy. My fingers, what was left of them, throbbed constantly. Every time I moved, I could feel the absence of my ring finger like an itch in a place that didn't exist. My union steward called me 2 days later, voice full of practiced outrage. They're trying to put on you, he said. They're saying unsafe practice. Did you bypass lockout? I pulled the disconnect, I said. Did you tag it out? Did you lock it? I didn't have time to hang a fucking tag. I snapped and then immediately regretted snapping at him. He was on my side. Kind of. He went quiet. John, he said softer. What happened? I stared at my bandaged hand, and the spiral flashed in my mind again like an afterimage. A door, I said. A door closed. He sighed like he'd heard enough. Okay, we'll handle it. Just keep your mouth shut around their lawyers. My ex drove our daughter over that weekend and kept her at the door like she was a stray cat she didn't want in her house. She made my kid wave from the porch. My daughter's eyes got wide when she saw my bandaged hand. Daddy, what happened? I opened my mouth, and for a split second, I heard her voice in the elevator again. Dad, please. And my stomach lurched so hard, I had to grab the doorframe with my good hand. I got hurt at work, I said, forcing my voice steady. I am okay. You missing a finger? She asked, blunt, because kids don't have the adult shame filter. Yeah, I admitted. She stared at the bandages like they were a magic trick. Does it hurt? Yeah, I said, honest. But I'm still here. My ex shot me a look like she was warning me not to get dramatic. My daughter stepped forward like she wanted to hug me, then hesitated when she saw the bandage bulk. I crouched carefully and hugged her with my good arm, holding my injured hand away. She smelled like shampoo and outside air and the little plastic toy she'd been clutching. Normal smells. Safe smells. But my brain, because it hates peace, kept imagining that bleach meat smell drifting into my living room like a fog. That night, after they left, I sat on my couch with my hand elevated, pain meds making the room float, and I stare at my phone. I kept wanting to call the hospital and scream at them. I kept wanting to drive back and weld the elevator doors shut. I kept wanting to go back down into that service corridor and prove to myself I hadn't hallucinated the whole thing. But I didn't go. I'm not brave. I am fast. And fast means knowing when to stay the fuck away. The hospital, meanwhile, did what hospitals do when something doesn't fit the story they sell. They buried it under paperwork. A week later, I got an email, polite, antiseptic language, incident report summary with a PDF attachment. It described a mechanical malfunction and contractor injury during emergency response. It included phrases like employee error without saying employee error directly. It had witness statements that read like somebody coached them. There was no mention of floor zero. There was no mention of a smell. There was no mention of a strap hand. There was no mention of the intercom voice saying my name. The admin on call never contacted me again. Risk management ghosted. Facilities sent a generic "we're sorry" note like I dropped my coffee on myself. Then, quietly, the East Tower Service Bank went offline for renovation. They put up plywood. They hung a printed sign, temporarily out of service. They rerouted traffic. They painted over call buttons. They did that thing institutions do where they pretend a problem is solved because it's out of sight. My union steward said they'd replace the controller. New boards, new wiring, new software. He said, "See, it was a tech issue. We'll get you paid." I didn't argue, because arguing would mean admitting to him that new boards don't erase a floor that was added with time. My hand healed ugly. The surgeon saved 2 fingers better than expected, lost the ring finger completely, left the middle finger stiff and crooked like a hook. The nerve pain came and went in hot electric flashes, especially at night when everything got quiet. Phantom finger itching is real, by the way. Your brain keeps asking your missing finger to report in, and when it doesn't, your brain panics and itches the air. I went to physical therapy in a strip mall next to a frozen yogurt place, because that's the kind of world we live in. I squeezed putty and picked up pennies and try not to scream when they stretch scar tissue. The therapist was kind. She asked how it happened. I said work accident. She nodded like she'd heard 1,000 versions of work accident. I stopped taking the heavy meds as soon as I could because they made my dreams too vivid. I'd fall asleep and wake up with the bleach smell in my nose like it had followed me home. I'd hear 3 knocks from inside my closet. I'd hear my daughter's voice from the hallway when I knew she was at her mom's. One night, I woke up to my own intercom voice in my head saying my name, John, like a whisper through a speaker. I sat up shaking and walked through my apartment, turning on lights like that would banish it. Light doesn't help when the thing is inside your patterns. 2 weeks after the injury, I had to go back to the hospital. Workers' comp bullshit. Forms. Signatures. A fit-for-duty evaluation, even though I obviously wasn't going to be wrenching on doors with a half hand anytime soon. Bureaucracy loves to make you prove you're hurt. I drove there on a gray afternoon, rain spitting against my windshield, and my stomach tightened the closer I got. The hospital skyline, ugly concrete tower, and tinny floodlights looked like a threat now. I parked far away and walked in with my left hand in a lighter brace, still swollen, still stiff. Every step through the lobby felt like walking into a memory I didn't want to finish. The lobby was normal. Volunteers and info desk. People coughing. A kid crying. That smell of coffee and disinfectant again. Normal misery. I checked in at occupational health and sat in a plastic chair under a TV playing a muted daytime show. The host smiled silently, and that smile made my skin crawl because it reminded me of voices that aren't real. A nurse called my name, my real name, out loud, and I flinched hard enough that she frowned. "You okay?" she asked. "Fine." I said too fast. She led me down a hallway toward a back office. We passed a service quarter intersection, and my pulse spiked because I recognized the turn toward East Tower even without signs. My body remembered like a dog remembers a place it got hit. The nurse turned away from that corridor, thank God, and I breathed again. In the office, they had me sign forms with my right hand. My signature looked like a drunk guy's. The doctor asked if I'd had nightmares. I lied and said so. He asked if I felt anxious. I lied and said, not really. I didn't want them labeling me unstable. I didn't want them saying hallucinations. I didn't want them turning floor 0 into stress response. After the appointment, I walked back through the main corridor toward the lobby, keeping my eyes forward, keeping my pace steady, trying to be invisible. And that's when I saw it. A linen cart, not pushed by anyone, not being guided, just rolling slow on its own, like it had momentum from nowhere. At first, my brain tried to explain it. Uneven floor. Someone let it go. Draft seeps through vents. Then it stopped dead in front of an elevator bank that wasn't supposed to be running. Not the public elevators. Not the main ones. A side bank with a restricted sign and a temporary out-of-service placard taped crooked over the call button like a lazy lie. The doors were closed. Quiet. Innocent. The linen cart sat there like it had finished its task. My stomach tightened so hard I thought I might vomit. The hallway was busy. People passed, talking, not noticing. A volunteer pushed a wheelchair. A doctor checked a phone. Life didn't pause for my fear. Life never pauses. The doors opened. Not fast, not slow, just smoothly like normal. The air that rolled out wasn't as strong this time. Not a full wave, but I smelled it anyway. That clean chemical bite. That warm rot underneath. A hint like someone cracked a fridge for a second. Above the doors, the display blinked. 0, just for a split second, like a wink, like it was saying hello. Then it flickered to a normal floor number and held there like nothing happened. The door stayed open, waiting. The linen cart didn't move forward. It didn't need to. It had done Rule 1. It had brought weight. It had brought a task. Something with a job. My left hand throbbed in the brace like it sensed the number. Like the missing finger was itching in warning. I stood still, heart hammering, and the corridor noise faded. All I could hear was blood in my ears and a faint, familiar hum, like a motor that wasn't supposed to have power. A man in scrubs stepped toward the open doors without looking up, coffee in hand, tired on autopilot. I moved fast without thinking. I grabbed his elbow hard enough to make him spill. "What the hell?" he snapped, spinning on me, eyes flashing. "Don't," I said, my voice came out raw. "Don't get on." He looked at me like I was crazy. "What is your problem?" I didn't have time for social rules. "That elevator's not running," I said. "It's out. It's fucked." He glanced at the open doors, annoyed. "It's open." "Yeah," I said. "It opens." His brows knit. "Are you threatening me? Who are you?" I could have said I'm the guy who lost a finger to that door. I could have said I'm the guy who heard his kid's voice in that gap. I could have said floor 0 is hungry. Instead, I said the only thing that works on tired people in hospitals. It's not safe. He hesitated just long enough. His eyes flicked to my brace, to the uneven shape of my hand under it. He saw injury. He saw consequence. That's what stopped him, not my words. He backed off, muttering, and walked away, shaking his head like I was a lunatic. The elevator doors stayed open, waiting. The linen cart sat there, silent, patient. And in that open doorway, through the crack of distance and fluorescent glare, I thought I saw a white dust smear on the inner door panel, like leftover extinguisher powder, and over it, faint as a fingerprint, that tight little spiral. My throat closed. I held my breath without meaning to, like cloth over my nose wasn't enough. I didn't go near it. I didn't try to be brave. I turned around and walked away as steady as I could, not running because running draws eyes, and I didn't want eyes on me because Rule 6 had taught me something worse than any safety manual ever did. It only knows your name if you give it time. So I didn't give it time. I kept walking, hand pressed against my chest like a shield, heart banging, I didn't look back until the lobby glass doors were between me and the tower. And even then, I swear to God, through the hum of the building and the rain on the glass, I heard 3 slow knocks somewhere deep inside the hospital. Not a mechanical knock, an answer.